Hi, I'm Rhi. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Talk with Rhi podcast. Thanks for joining me and tuning in today. Today we are talking about a movie we saw this weekend that was game-changing, and that is Inside Out 2. Now, I was expecting to go and see this. If you hear from my mummy before does Disney Channel, you know we're a family of Disney fans. We love Disney trips. So I was always going to take the children to see Inside Out 2 opening weekend. That was always going to happen. But I was just going to take them for a bit of a, hey, fun time to the cinema. What do you think of it compared to the original? I did not expect to have my mind blown by all of the parenting psychology lessons I was going to take away from it, delivered in such a digestible way. I did not expect for this to change the way I talk to my children about puberty and growing up, and yet it has. So without further ado, we're going to get into the whole lessons we can learn as parents about how we can talk to our children about puberty and help them through it. Warning, there will be spoilers in this episode, so if you've not seen Inside Out 1, which I guess is just called Inside Out, or indeed Inside Out 2, there will be spoilers. You can catch Inside Out, the original movie, on Disney Plus, or you can head to, at the time of filming, Inside Out 2 is just in cinemas, movie theatres. So I would highly recommend going to see it and watch it with your kids. Watch it with your partner and just absorb all of the amazing way that it takes psychology principles, because this film was put together with psychologists. It takes principles that we're going to go into today in this podcast episode and depicts and explains them so well. So let's start with a very brief recap of the original Inside Out movie, which was out in 2015, and it's about Riley, an 11-year-old girl who has emotions that live inside her head. And in fact, they nip into the mum's head and the dad's head, and they all have their own versions of these emotions. And the emotions being joy, anger, disgust, fear, and sadness. And all of these emotions impact Riley, the little girl's actions, and they react in different ways to things that happen to her. And during the film, it starts off as every memory that is created by Riley is one color. So it's a sad memory or a happy memory or whatever it might be. But by the end of the movie, then the characters learn, the emotions learn that certain memories can be both happy and sad. You can feel both anger and fear. They can be multicolored memories, and the memories go from being individual colors to multicolors and beautiful marbles. And it just shows that all of her emotions can work in harmony to help her. Cut to the beginning of the second movie, Inside Out 2. Riley's now a teenager. She's 13. And puberty is incoming. Puberty is incoming. And things are about to change a lot. So it starts at the beginning where things are going quite well. All of Riley's emotions are really in sync. They're really helping her. And it's working so well. So she's playing ice hockey and she's feeling the joy. And then anger kicks in to give her like a boost of adrenaline to like play harder, and then fear kicks in to remind her to wear a mouth guard, and then disgust kicks in to remind her that that's not her mouth guard and that's disgusting, she should spit it out. So it's just all flowing really well. And I think as parents sometimes we can get to this stage where we think, hey, we've got this, this is going so well, just before a new stage hits. Has anyone else been there? I know I've been there. My hand is raised right now. Anyway, things are going pretty well for Riley and for her emotions until all the emotions are asleep, which is really cute because they're all sleeping in their own little ways and their own little PJs that are, suitable for their particular emotions. And a blaring alarm goes off in the middle of the night, and it's the puberty alarm. Puberty is coming. It goes, blaring siren. So Joy does what she does with all of the things that she thinks are not good for Riley, which is stick it in a catapult and throw it to the back of the mind. So they're like, well, that's dealt with. Until moments later, a wrecking ball comes through the window, smashes headquarters to pieces. And this is a bit of a metaphor for puberty, how puberty kind of breaks down the child in order to build the adult in a way. And puberty can feel messy, and there are so many changes going on within a child's mind, body, all of it. So many changes, and this kind of building site metaphor works so well. I love that they add a sign, pardon our dust, which is like pardon our pixie dust, which are the signs that go up in Disney. Hello, by the way, if you're here from my Mummy of Four Does Disney channel. Hi. If you don't know and you do love Disney, then I have a Disney channel where I share Disney trip vlogs, loads of tips and tricks and all the magic if you are planning trips, or if you just kind of want to join us and holiday with us in the Disney parks and on the Disney Cruise Line. So make sure you check out that channel if you love a bit of Disney. So they say pardon our dust, just like the pardon our pixie dust. And then the builders come in, they smash it all apart. They totally redesign the console, which is how the emotions like control, I guess, Riley. They redesign everything, and then they leave and the place is still a mess. And that's what puberty is like. Riley is not grown into an adult yet. Puberty is not over, so the place is still a mess. So that's kind of how puberty can feel. It can feel kind of messy. So then the console works differently now. Every time one of the emotions touches it, Riley basically overreacts massively. They barely touch the console. The emotions are like, what? I barely touched it. This thing is broken. And Riley's like absolutely going, anger touches it. She's absolutely furious. Disgust touches it. She's like, oh, that's so revolting. Sadness touches it. She's absolutely bawling her eyes out. And then the new emotions come. And with puberty come new emotions, and the new emotions being anxiety, envy, embarrassment, and ennui. The bottom, who is French and just too cool for school and really looks down, knows that everybody is like, so bored. And I love that Ennui, or Joy calls her Wee Wee. Ennui is controlling the console from an app, lying back on the couch from her phone. She's like, ugh. Ennui is just the bored teenager. It's brilliant. Anyway, so anxiety comes in and she's like, I just want to help. I just want to help. I just want to help. I just want to plan for the future. I just want to protect Riley. And Fear's like, we're going to get on. We are going to get along. And anxiety changes. And in fact, all the new emotions. So anxiety, envy, embarrassment, and ennui change the way that Riley's behaving. So initially, in fact, I skipped a little bit. Let's get back. Before all this happened, they introduced the concept of the belief system. So before puberty hit, Joy was taking memories, specific memories, in a lift or an elevator, if you're watching from the States, down to somewhere called the belief system. And they were putting these memories into this kind of beautiful pool with a beautiful flowing waterfall, and they were forming these beliefs. So the memory would go into the water, and then a beautiful kind of string. You're gonna have to watch the movie to just see it, because this bit's really beautiful. And it each of these memories, when put into the belief system, creates a belief, and all these beliefs converge to form Riley's sense of self. And at the beginning, Riley has this really secure attachment. She's so confident in herself. She's like, I'm a good person. My parents love me. My parents are proud of me. And all these beliefs are just beautiful, and they're positive, and they come together to form Riley's sense of self, which is glowing and gorgeous and wonderful. Now, after these new emotions come in, they're concerned that the old emotions are not helping Riley sufficiently, and they literally bottle them up. They bottle up the emotions. It's so brilliant. They bottle up the emotions and they stick them in a vault, and these emotions are going to break out in order to go back and help Riley. So anxiety is always planning for the future, planning, what if this happens, what if that happens, what if this happens? And she uses the imagination to draw up all these scenarios. What if this happens? Then we have no friends and we die alone. What if, just all these different scenarios, which I'm sure we can all relate to. And especially when everything feels heightened as a teenager. Anxiety then kind of takes over. Now, I'd like it noted that none of these emotions are ever depicted as evil emotions. Anxiety is not attempting to take over because she wants power. She's not trying to take over because she wants one up on the other emotions. Anxiety is trying to help Riley, the little girl. All of the emotions are just doing their best to help Riley, the little girl. And this is really powerful because our emotions are not necessarily bad, negative things. Our emotions are all there to help us. So fear, for example, we can think of fear as a really negative thing. And if I'm honest, any emotion in excess, I guess like anything in life, anything in excess can be negative. But we've got to remember that fear helps us because it keeps us safe. So fear of jumping off of high things stops us from doing that and hurting ourselves. Fear of getting burnt stops us from sticking our fingers in the fire. Fear of, like moderate fear, but fear of getting run over, make sure that we stop, look and listen before we cross the street. So small fear in moderation helps us. It's only when one thing takes over that it becomes unhelpful. So anxiety is trying to help Riley by planning for the future. And she's hyped up on energy drinks. Anxiety is like, just won't stay still. Anxiety is pushing aside all the other emotions. She's like, no, I must help Riley the most. I must protect her. And that's kind of what anxiety does. It's like, I'm here to protect you. I just want to protect you. I just want to plan for the future. And that's how anxiety can feel inside our bodies, especially as a heightened emotion as a teenager. So anxiety is running wild, trying to protect Riley, trying to do her best, but ultimately causing more harm than good, until all of the emotions come back together to kind of neutralize anxiety. So anxiety has managed to throw out Riley's old sense of self, saying that's not helpful, it's not going to help her, and cause a new anxious sense of self, until all of these emotions come together to try and calm anxiety. And they kind of hug and surround Riley's sense of self, which is a really beautiful visualization of almost like a beautiful tree of converging threads. I'm not doing a terribly good job of describing that actually, but I can see it in my mind's eye. And if you've seen it, let me know if you're with me. But if you haven't seen the movie yet, you absolutely have to. Anyway, there is a really beautiful visualization in the movie where it's not referred to as grounding, but it's what Riley does. So Riley, the little girl, has been put in some sort of timeout or something from hockey, and she's feeling all this anxiety, and it's totally overcoming her. Anxiety inside her head is spinning out. It's like a whirlwind inside her head. Oh, if I don't just to win a match or something in order to get some sort of scholarship and win friends and all the things. But then as joy and the other emotions surround anxiety and calm her within Riley's mind, Riley does this beautiful grounding exercise, and they show Riley listening to something and hearing, the tapping of the hockey puck or something on the ice. I can't remember exactly what. She hears something. They do a visualization of something she's smelling, something she can see, something she can touch. And Riley, the little girl in the movie, does a grounding exercise where she's brought back out of the future tripping, out of the anxious future, into the present moment. And this is such a valuable lesson that we can teach to our children, that when we are spinning out, we're having all these big feelings. And bear in mind, I'm also talking about parenting children who are on the spectrum. If you don't know, I am what my therapist has referred to as queen of a neurospicy household. So I have 4 children with autism, a husband who does not have a diagnosis, but basically we're all pretty in agreement that has autism, and I have ADHD. So these big feelings that we're talking about during puberty, if you have got someone who has autism anyway, a lot of this can apply, regardless of whether they are currently in the stage of puberty or not. And in fact, even if you're not on the spectrum, these ways of visualizing the big feelings can help us even as adults. So Riley's doing this grounding exercise, and I think if you can visualize, and I can talk to my children about, right, all the emotions in your head. Do you remember how anxiety was spinning and spinning and spinning, and she was out of control, and all the other emotions came to hug her, and everything came together to calm it? And then how Riley did that exercise where she thought of something she could see, something she could touch, something she could hear, something she could smell, and she came out of the future tripping and back into that present moment, and she started to calm, and her whole body went calm. That is such a powerful image of what we can guide our children through, and indeed ourselves, sometimes as adults, in order to feel calmer and get out of our heads a little bit and back into the present moment. Then all the emotions work together and Riley ends up with more beliefs, not just anxious ones, not just joyful ones, but a whole concoction of beliefs that make her a whole and multidimensional person. And I think it's shown towards the end of the movie that all our emotions have value. All our emotions are really genuinely trying to help us. Fear's like, I'm just trying to keep you alive. And anxiety's like, I'm just trying to keep you alive. And disgust's like, I'm just trying to stop you doing something that poisons you. And sadness is just trying to show, I guess, what's sadness trying to do? Trying to just appreciate that feeling our feelings is okay, and that sadness has its place as we mourn things, as we move through life. And it's not just joyful, happy things that happen in life, but all of these emotions come together to make who we are. And it really reminded me towards the end of the movie where anxiety was allowed to be there. They were all allowed to be there, but anxiety was not allowed to drive anymore. Anxiety was not allowed to take over the console and bottle up the other emotions. Anxiety was given a nice, relaxing chair near the console. So anxiety was definitely allowed to be there to keep an eye on Riley, to make sure she's okay, but she was not allowed to drive. And this really reminded me of the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. So Big Magic is about creative living beyond fear. So in the book, she's talking about fear rather than anxiety, but it really reminded me of like the same principle. So I'd like to read you a little clip, a little excerpt from Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert. And in the book, she's talking about fear and creativity, how fear can really hold us back. And it's an important emotion because, like all of our emotions, it's just trying to help us. However, if it is allowed to drive the car when we're going on our road trip of life, it can cause problems. And here's what she said. She says, fear and creativity are conjoined twins. You don't get rid of fear, but you can make all the space for creativity. Fear can come along fear can come along for the ride, but it does not get to drive. And I think this is just depicted so well in Inside Out 2. So anxiety has its place. Anxiety is just us planning for what might happen in the future and trying to avoid speed bumps. It's like, which route should we take in the car? Will this one be better? Will this be, well, there's a traffic jam on that one. Sat-nav says there's a traffic jam on that one, so we'll take this one. And manageable amounts of planning for the future are sensible and practical and help our lives go smoothly. So therefore, anxiety in a managed way, doing what she's attempting to do, which is keep Riley safe, make sure Riley's okay, make sure everything's all right, is a good thing. Like fear, if we had no fear at all, we would climb into a lion's cage at the zoo. We would jump into shark-infested waters. We would not be careful we're on the top of high buildings and stay away from the edge. We would not look before we crossed the street because we had no fear of being run over. So a sensible amount of fear, a sensible amount of anxiety is the stuff that makes us put our seatbelts on when we get in the car. It's this thing that makes us put a baby gate on the stairs to stop our children falling down the stairs. And that's okay. Those are helpful emotions in moderation. It's just when they take over and they take over our lives that they become unhelpful emotions. And in the movie, I really like how all the emotions are genuinely trying to help Riley. They're genuinely trying to do their best. They may sometimes be a bit misguided. They may sometimes go a little off path. But I think it's important for kids to realize, especially as they move into puberty, where the emotions are big emotions, that none of their emotions are bad, that they are not their emotions, that their emotions are something they feel, but they are not their emotions, and their emotions are not bad. And they all have a place. They're all trying to take care of them. They're all trying to do their best for them. And sometimes things go a little bit off. But when things can be calmed down, and I just love the part of the movie where anxiety is totally spinning out of control and the other emotions, they come together and they hold her and they take the new anxiety-ridden sense of self, and they hug together, and the new version of the sense of self is created that contains all the emotions. So it's not as pure as the sense of self from childhood where there were no worries, but it's not as anxiety ridden as the sense of self built purely on anxiety, and it's more rounded and it's more colourful. And then in the movie, in real life, not out of Riley's head and back in real life, she's spinning out because anxiety is literally creating a whirlwind in her mind. And when the other emotions come to calm her, in real life, she does a grounding exercise where she sees something she can see, she listens to something she can hear, something she can smell, and she's brought back to the moment and she is calmed. And her parasympathetic nervous system kicks back in, the fight or flight disappears, everything calms. She's brought back to a safe and social state where she is able to feel calm and to be back in control and not let her anxiety let everything spin out of control. So honestly, the concepts in this movie and the way they are conveyed, by all accounts, since 2015, since Inside Out, the original movie, was released, psychology professors have been using it to explain and discuss psychology principles to their students, and I just know that this film is going to be the same. The way it talks about the complexity of different emotions, the introduction of new emotions as we grow up, the sense of self, how our identity is formed via beliefs, the way that anxiety and stress management can be looked at by being able to visualize our emotions, what they're really trying to do for us, which ones are helpful and which ones are not so helpful. So I love the way that at the end, anxiety is allowed to be involved with Riley, still allowed to help Riley, but she's asked to take a seat. So much like in Elizabeth Gilbert's book, where fear is allowed to come along for the ride in the car but is not allowed to drive, anxiety is given a chill out chair. She's near the consoles, she's not in control of it, she's not driving it. She's there to help, but she needs to just chill and relax in her comfy, I think it's like a vibrating chair, like the one you get in the services. It talks so much about emotional regulation and the balance of emotions, as well as the neurodevelopmental changes that teenagers are going through. The builders, I just love that analogy of everything being smashed up in order to be rebuilt again. It's just brilliant. So I would just urge you to go and see this movie. Inside Out 2 really I feel like it's given me a toolkit with which to talk to my children. If we can talk together about how beliefs are formed based on things that we hear, based on something that's said to us, and these memories form beliefs, we can start to visualize this happening and start to think, well, this thing that was said to me, maybe it was a mean thing said to me by someone in school. Do I want this to form one of my beliefs? Or is this something I'm going to let go? Am I just going to let it go and drift on down the stream? Am I going to take this into my belief system to make it part of myself? Or am I going to let it go? And if my children, to be honest, if I can visualize this, if something that is said to me, let's take the internet, for example, the internet, which is where I kind of hang out for my job. If every mean thing that was said on the internet, I decided to take that memory and to put it into my belief system and to make that a part of my sense of self, anxiety would definitely be driving up here, definitely. And I think if we can start to choose which of these memories with okay, that is a memory, we're going to store it and that's fine. And which of these memories we're going to take and create beliefs from, I think that can be really, really, really valuable. And just knowing that our emotions are there, they're all valid, and they're all trying to help us, even if sometimes it goes a little bit wrong. So please go and see this movie. Take your children, take your whole families, take your partners. You all know what you're talking about and you've got a point of reference to discuss. It's out in cinema at the moment at the point of filming, and I'm sure it'll be coming to Disney Plus very, very soon. So thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, do the YouTubey things if you're on YouTube. Check out my Mummy of Four Does Disney channel if you love Disney. Check out the YouTube channel if you're listening on audio. Review if you're listening on audio. And I shall see you guys soon. Bye.